The Ys franchise is very old and has been active for at least 30 years now, but here in the West it crept slowly on its way to the Hall of Fame as one of the most popular action RPG series, and for a lot of people, it seemed to appear out of nowhere after Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, was released and reached the peak of popularity in this side of the world. There are now a total of 11 main entries released in the series canon, not counting alternative versions and different releases throughout the years. What really makes matters complicated about its chronology and where to start is that the chronological order seems to be decided completely at random at each time Falcon releases a new game, meaning that Ys 1 is not actually the first and Ys 10, the latest entry right now, is not the last. I'm here to tell you what's the definitive chronological order of these games, at least as of 2025, and which ones are the best options to get into the series. First of all, let's understand the chronological order of the games. I won't get into many details about the general story of each one to prevent spoilers, so let's go. I improvised this quick flowchart to make things easier to understand. Before we begin though, it's important to note that although there is a chronological order going on and each game has its events mentioned in each other and even some recurring characters, almost all of them present completely independent storylines and can be played basically in any order from a story point of view. The only exception would be the first 3 games in the chronology. With that in mind, let's begin. As much as one would expect a franchise to begin on the first game, Ys 1, released all the way back in the distant year of 1989, this is not the case for Ys. In 2006, Falcon actually released a prequel, Ys Origin, which takes place 700 years before the first game, and sets up the lore and backstory for basically everything that happens in Ys 1. That said, the first one in the chronology is in fact Ys Origin, way before the main character in the series, Edo Christine, was even born. After that, we have Ys 1 and 2. These are usually bundled together since they are very short games, and 2 is a direct sequel to 1, picking up exactly where Ys 1's story ends. They will present you the first ever adventure of Ado the Red, main character of every single Ys game from now on, and you will also get to meet Dogi, his best friend and sidekick, also present in basically every installment in the series. Origins 1 and 2 are the only 3 games that have their events totally connected to each other and share the same roster of characters, events and locations. Now, right after the oldest games in the franchise, we have the most recent game in the franchise, Ys 10, Nordics. Yes, the newest entry in the series takes place right after Ys 2. I haven't played this one yet, so I don't really know a lot about it, but I have seen that an enhanced edition called Proud Nordics has been announced, so I decided to wait for that version. This way I don't have to buy the same game twice. Atlus trained me well enough with Persona and Shin Megami Tensei to not fall for it anymore. Well, anyway, right after 10, chronologically the next one is 4. 4 had many different versions throughout the years, but the definitive one considered canon to the story is Memories of Celceta, a remake released originally for PS Vita but then ported to modern platforms including PC. This is one of my favorites and I really like the storytelling in this one. Also, an important character here will appear again in another future title. The order of the games right now is Origins 1, 2, 10 and 4. So, of course, after 4, the next one is... exactly, 3. Just like Ys 4, 3 also had its share of re-releases and different versions, but the one considered canon that you should play is the one called Ys Oath in Felghana, which is a remake released for PC more than 10 years ago. However, it has recently been re-released at Ys Memoir, I don't know how to pronounce that. Ys Memoir, Oath in Felghana, for modern platforms. So there's no excuses. Great game, challenging gameplay, amazing OST, just like every other game in the series. I should mention again that the story portion here in Memories of Celceta and probably in Nordics too are completely independent to each other. You control Ado Christine in all of these games, but each one features completely unique events and take place in completely different places, so don't fret a lot about it right now. After 3, in the chronology we have Ys 5, Lost Caffeine, Kingdom of Sand, which is the only one of the older games I haven't played, and also the only one that, as of 2025, has no recent remake or re-release available. If you want to play it, you have to go with the original SNES version or its only remake released for PS2 almost 20 years ago, in 2006. And both versions are exclusive to Japan. Again, it features an independent story, but this time there is another single character other than Dogi that will appear again in the future. We'll get there soon. Right now, the order is Origin 1, 2, 10, 4, 3 and 5. And the next one is 8, Lacrimosa of Dana. This is the one that reached peak popularity in the West and made the series' real breakthrough here. Once again, we have Ado and Dogi starting a new adventure on a boat, which is a never good thing for Ado, but this time the boat sinking plays a really important role in the overall plot. Great game, one of the best in the entire series. A few events from previous games are mentioned in this one, which help us situate Lacrimosa of Dana's place in the chronology. Not only that, but this one's an important title because not only tells us a new adventure of Ado, but also presents us with deep lore and information about the world of the series, even prior to the events presented in Ys Origin. These events don't really affect the overall chronology nor the events told in other games, and ultimately, this game still takes place in the present with the main focus on Ado Christian. Also, we get to meet an old friend from another game in this one, which is kinda cool, but then again, not really necessary for understanding the story or anything. After the events of Ys 8, we have Ys 6, the arc of... I still don't know how to pronounce this. Once again, we have Ado sinking another boat and ending up in another island. This was the first Ys game localized and released in the West in many years, back in the PS2 era. We have yet another independent story here, except for a single appearance of a character from Ys 5. It plays a lot like Origins and Wolfen Felgana, since this was actually the first Ys game made in that engine, and as such, it's a little bit more rough around the edges than these other two games. Also, it can be hard as hell sometimes. We're almost at the end of the chronology explanation here. After 6, we have, well, 7, I'll be damned. Finally the numbers make some sense. Ys 7 is the first one in the series to present a party system. The same system that was used in the previously mentioned Memories of Celceta and Lacrimosa of Dana. And not only that, you can actually play as Dogi in this one, and even with one of the characters introduced in Ys 6. Marking its place in the series' continuity. Finally, the last one, Ys 9, Monstrum Nox. Takes place a while after 7 and the events of Ys 7 are mentioned a few times by other characters. So, to sum it all up, the full order is Origin 1, 2, 10, 4, 3, 5, 8, 6, 7, 9. I'll leave this flowchart available in the description for anyone who wants to save it for future references. Now, with all of this in mind, where the hell should we start in the series? I'll get to it right now. Which one should you play first? Well, since it's a long-running series and an action-based one, it's expected that many changes happened throughout the decades. So it all depends on how much old school and engine mechanics you're willing to face. I'll break it down according to each type of player, pretty much how I've done on my Dragon Quest video, so you can see by yourself which one is the best option for you. If you like to play in order. Well, even though I just explained the entire chronological order of the series, I know it may still be a little confusing to decide which one's first. Origin would be a good choice. It aged fairly well, has a nice combat system, it's challenging but not frustrating, and it will present you to a lot of lore elements that will be useful on Ys 1 and 2. The downside here is that even though it's a prequel, it was released many years later than 1 and 2, and as such, it kinda expects you to already know 1 and 2 stories, so it may end up spoiling some details to you. You can also try the other way around. Play 1 and 2 first and then proceed to Origins. That's how I play it and how I'd love to recommend you to do, if it weren't so hard to get into 1 and 2 combat system. You see, instead of being a classic action RPG just like every other game in the series, Ys 1 and 2 have a combat system based on pushing your enemies around. You have no attack button at all, and that can feel really weird at first. I love both these games, but I'm well aware it can be kind of a shock. Either way, they are very short games. I think each one takes no longer than 7 or 8 hours to finish, and are also usually very cheap on Steam, so it may be worth a try. Whether you choose Origins or want to start, both will have mild spoilers of the other. There's no way to get away from that. That's it for starting to play in Order. Now, if you just want the best experience right away, there is absolutely no secret here. The best place to start is by far 8, Lacrimosa of Dana. It expands the party system introduced in 7 and Celceta almost to perfection. The game's a bit on the easy side, but you can start on hard if that bothers you. In fact, for me, hard difficult level was just perfect on the challenge and how it expected me to master the combat system. The story is presented in a way that introduces a lot of recurrent elements in the series, but never makes you feel lost at any time. Exploration is by far the best one in the franchise too. It's no wonder this game reached such a level of popularity. It's undeniably a very good game. The downside here is that if you get too used to this one and you're interested in playing the older games after this, you'll probably struggle a little to get used to the older mechanics. Either way, you're up to a great experience starting the series through Lacrimosa of Dana. Also, it's very accessible considering it's available on basically every modern platform. Where not to start? There's actually quite a few games in the series that I do not recommend you to start. First of them is 2, not because it's a bad game or anything like that, it's a good game in fact, but it's the last part of the story arc that includes Origin and 1. So starting with these 2 would just throw you in the middle of a lot of things happening and expect you to know everything. Actually, I can't even imagine someone starting with these 2 since it's usually sold together with 1, so just play 1 first if you bought them. 5. Lost Catherine Kingdom of Sand is not recommended either. Mostly because it's old and hard to get by, considering it's only on SNES and PS2 and both Japan exclusive. Of course, you can emulate it and get a fun translation patch, but still, I'm pretty sure it didn't really age well. 6. Arc of Netflix is a good game, but it's the first using the engine used for Origin and Felghana, and also hard as hell. So the best course of action here would be get used to the gameplay through Origin and Felghana first, and then take on 6. The same goes for 7. It's the first one using the party system perfected on Lacrimosa of Dana. It's not a bad game either, but keep in mind that it was still polishing what would become a great combat system. 9. Monstrum Nox. Well, I actually love this game, but it can be a little weird and not really the best starting point. It features basically one single dungeon and a few explorable areas. Most of the game takes place in the same city with this one dungeon. The story and characters are very edgy, and all of this may leave you with the wrong idea about the series. Felghana and Celceta are okay, both aged a little bit, but are still great games, also 2 of my favorites. Maybe not the best ones to start with, but also not the worst. So, I hope I helped you understand a little bit more about this franchise. This was supposed to be a quick video, but it ended up being a little bit longer than I expected. Even so, if it helped you just a little, it's already worth it. Don't forget to tell me in the comments if you agree or disagree with me and which game you chose to get into the E-series. See you next time, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. See ya!